Let's talk about the results from California and Super Tuesday, and
Yeah.
feel free to repeat yourself if you mentioned any of this on um, the majority report this afternoon.
Yeah, I guess the main thing that most people are concerned about is just the Senate race, because I mean that has the greatest implications as far as trying to get a progressive in there. Barbara Lee would have been great. What I said on the air was that Barbara Lee was, they split the left vote essentially. I mean, you can quibble with, is Katie Porter really a leftist, or is she more of a center left candidate? I'd probably say she's more center left, but I mean, she's still much better than most Democratic candidates, and especially since she's running in Orange County, which is very conservative, and that was a Republican area for most of the 21st century. And so, but they just did not do well at all. Like I said on the air, they were seven. If you would put the combination of their totals, they were still 7 points away from Steve Garvey's total. And so, yeah, that was pretty rough to deal with that, because I thought that both of them would do a lot better, especially Katie Porter. But
You, I'm
yeah,
sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say one thing that wasn't too rough was Sam wasn't as bent out of shape this time about you coming on this show as he was the last time you mentioned it. He seemed like he was upset, and this time he didn't. But I thought I could detect maybe like an undercurrent. Did you pick up on that at all?
A little bit. I did say in a private message to him that I was. I mean, I know it's a big running joke to him,
Maybe.
but yeah, no, it is. But I'm saying, like, that I've been calling into the show for 10 years, and so it's like, I mean, I really enjoy these shows also, but I mean, it's like, I'd still be calling in,
Yeah, yeah.
and
10
so it's,
years. That's a
yeah,
commitment.
yeah, it's been fun. I mean, I always love doing that. I mean, I love politics, love to see the world, try to get better, and so hopefully, hopefully that'll happen. This has been a rough year for progressives, boy. I mean, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm hoping all the people that are running are going to, the incumbents. I think that's what most progressives are focused on. The first one is Summer Lee's race on the 23rd of April. And then, you're dealing with all the other ones, Jamal Bowman, uh, I mean, Corey Bush, Ilhan Omar. Those are going to be the toughest holds. I think the other members are going to be pretty easy holds. But there's just not too many people. Like Jen Perlman. She's running. She's great. I've heard her interviewed. I'm glad you're interviewing her. I like her outlook on life. I like the issues that she focuses on. I know that primary is, I think it's in August, around
Hmm.
20th, around that area. I don't know I'm not sure
I
the
think you're
exact
right.
date.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but besides her, I mean, if people want to DM me, to let me aware of other progressive candidates, there really aren't that many that are running,
Well, so
so
let's talk about who these folks are going up against because APAC is specifically targeting some of the candidates that you mentioned. Jamal Bowman,
right,
he's under fire for the incident in which he pulled a Capitol Hill fire alarm, right? But he's
right,
also facing a popular Westchester County executive named George Latimer.
right,
But I guess that's a big deal there. Corey Bush is under a federal investigation for alleged campaign finance violations. She's being challenged by public defender Wesley Bell.
yes,
Um, everyone's kind of shaking in their boots over that as well. Ilhan Omar is set for a rematch with Minneapolis City Council member Don Samuels, who she only beat by like 2 points
right,
in 2022. And then, like you said, Summer Lee's being challenged by a local legislator, Bhavini Patel.
right,
They've they've all got their work cut out for them, not to mention the funding coming from APAC. So these folks, all the guys that we would naturally be rooting for, are coming together to counter the amount of money that APAC is spending against their campaigns. Now APAC is spending like 9 figures, and these folks have come up with 7 figures. It's not the same. And APAC's been at this a long time. So whatever kind of resistance they put up, you got to wonder if it's going to be enough.
Yeah, I think it will be with most of them. I think the three that you mentioned, I think Bowman is going to win also, but yeah, and Summerlee I think is also going to win. Because they had really good fundraising numbers, and so and I think they're pretty strong in their districts. Like I said, Bush, and the Ilhan Omar are probably going to have the toughest time, but I think most of them will win. It is tough though. Like today, I was talking about $500,000 that were spent for Keena Collins. Keena Collins, that's the one of the big races for tomorrow. In fact,
In
I would say
Illinois.
that, yeah, Illinois 7th district going up against Danny Davis. That's really going to be it's going to be, hopefully it'll be an upset win, because once she wins, I mean, that district is, west side of Chicago, 41% black population. I mean, the Democrat's going to win that seat. So essentially, whoever wins a plurality in that race is going to be the congressman from the 7th district, or hopefully be the congresswoman. And so yeah, Keena Collins is really good. It's the third time that she's running. I'm just hoping for that upset. Uh, Kashim Richard is also, he's got a really great issue set. I mean, he's really a human rights lawyer, and he's really phenomenal. I mean, I've been really pushing his candidacy. He's up against, in a little bit of a tougher district. Bill Foster's a conservative Democrat. It's mainly in the suburbs, and it's hard to win, in those districts if you're super progressive and you really want to state your values, because those kind of values are really more. Uh, I think they speak to people in urban centers more, especially young people. I mean, you look at most of the squad people and leaders, and most of them are in larger cities. I mean, some of them are surprising that they do, like Jamal Bowman. I mean, he does have part of the Bronx, but I mean, Westchester County is really good. There's a lot of affluent people who live there, but I mean, he's a great orator, and he was able to to really connect with the voters there by beating Elliot Engel a couple cycles ago, and that was a definite surprise. I remember when Sam interviewed him when he was still on Ring of Fire. I guess it was maybe this September of the year before. I mean, it was super early, and I was like, "Who is this guy? This guy sounds really good." And he ended up winning, and so that was great. And so yeah, again, like we were talking about before, the unfortunate thing is that if you don't raise the money, it's just the correlation is so strong, and I wish it wasn't that way. I wish there were more people who were like, I'm going to ignore all of those ads, and I'm gonna do my own research, and I'm gonna look at the issues. I'll have my issues set, and that's how I'm gonna vote. I'm not gonna vote just on negative ads. But unfortunately, that's just not the case. I mean that's why we need campaign finance laws, to where it limits money in politics, to where people will be more focused on issues. And So hopefully, hopefully you got to win elections to get that passed, though. And so, when is that going to happen? I hope it happens soon. And then you got to deal with the Supreme Court, who essentially is saying that that is not what we want. And I mean, like, look at the Citizens United decision; it's so terrible, and we're
Yeah.
still feeling the effects from that. But I mean, a lot of it. I mean, I don't mean to be like blame the voter, but I mean, it's not. It's just I just encourage voters to do research on candidates, and that's the way it should be.
I mean, absolutely, because politics is in the public eye more and more as like sort of a drama fueled reality TV show where like, oh, did you hear what Marjorie Taylor Greene said? Did you hear what
Right.
Trump said? Let's take it out of context. Although there's plenty of things he says that are horrible and we could just criticize him for that. And it's all this like weird like drama instead of informing voters. And so, unfortunately, you're right. Voters do have to take it upon themselves to look into candidates in their area and find out what they stand for. And that's why, like, I'm going to have more and more on the show just because it's, if they'll come on the show, right? I'm inviting them at any rate. But
Yeah.
what I would like to see is guaranteed primary debates and more platforming on mainstream media of the candidates, like all the candidates. And because the way they do it now is like, especially for president, they're like, you can get to the debate stage if your campaign raises enough money. Like you have to raise a certain amount of money before you're allowed to be on the debate stage. I meant to say, not the campaign stage, the debate stage. So
Right.
like you can be in the debates if you make enough money. And there it is. It's like, yeah, because they're going to spend that money on your network, like for ads. And I hate it. So it does drive me crazy. And then you get places like, well, I don't want to skip Ohio. Did you want to talk about Ohio first?
Yeah, I just want to go back to what you're talking about in some of the debates. Like in the seventh district, there were debates, and I was like looking at some of the articles, that were touching on the debates, and that's the race with Kina Collins and Danny.
Televised?
Yeah, they were televised. I
Oh,
mean, I just saw press reports. I mean, I didn't really actually go. They're probably on the web also, but I haven't done that. I haven't checked it yet. I just saw highlights from it. But I mean, there were some good quotes where like on Qasam Rashid's in his race against Bill Foster, Foster just refused to debate him. I mean, he just
hmm.
said, "No, we're not going to do it." And so I mean, Rashid raised, I think it was 800, is he, I think $862,000, which is a good amount of money. I mean, most progressives do not raise that much money. I
Right.
mean, unless they're like super established. And so, I mean, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? I just wanted to make sure that I just like, you know, I at least promoted these people because they do have a better chance than uh, a lot of others, and not too many coming up. In recent, like I said, if anybody wants to DM me about candidates I don't know about, it's uh, Raucous Dendrite, or yeah, the Coffinus Hoedown, HODW. And so, because I want to hear about them. I'm looking for them. Haven't, like I said, Jen Perlman, who's going to be on next. I mean, I know that her debate or her primaries in August. And so, but besides that, there just aren't too many that I've seen.
Well,
Uh,
just so everyone watching knows, John's his Twitter will be in the description of this video, but it is also pinned in the chat right now. So if you know of somebody, let him know. Um, I guess it's the groups that we are looking to hear or looking to for candidates would be like Working Families Party, Justice Democrats, right? Democratic Socialists of America, Our Revolution. And those happen to be the ones, along with Jewish Voice for Peace, those happen to be the left wing groups who are forming that Reject AIPAC coalition that I was talking about. But that's really, those are the groups we're looking to for candidates, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, they're essentially just promote the candidates. I mean, yeah. I mean, I know that like Justice Democrats, they did recruit, like they recruited AOC. You know, I mean, they were pretty active at the very beginning. Right now, they didn't promote anybody, any non-incumbents this cycle, and that was a big story. Also, brand new Congress actually
Hmm.
dissolved, because brand new Congress actually promoted more people than Justice Democrats, but they completely dissolved. And yeah, I mean, this is kind of a long, I mean, process that's been going on over the past year and a half. That because the main thing is that Joe Biden is a centrist Democrat, and that's what dominates the airwaves right now. You don't In the last two presidential cycles, Bernie was out there, could always pushing these ideas, Medicare for all, uh, climate change, Green New Deal, having a peaceful foreign policy, not always being involved in foreign policy skirmishes that we don't need to be in. Uh, just trying to have more of a tackle income inequality. I mean, women's issues, immigration issues. I mean, there are just so many important issues, LGBTQI issues. I mean, it just goes on and on, and so all of these issues are important, and they're just not being talked about as much as they have been since Bernie first ran. Because you just don't hear it. I mean, you still hear it on left wing shows, like the Majority Report and other, left wing shows, and those are great, and I love those shows. But it's just not. I mean, more people still, continue to watch mainstream media. They're not losing their audience, like everybody thought they would. Oh, cable's dying, cable's dead. It's not. I mean, people are still watching it. In fact, they're watching it more than ever. And that is kind of a shame. But I mean, it's just it's easier to access, I think, for people. Just turn on the TV and there it is.
Well,
But
and you'll hear me criticize alternative media for showing clips from mainstream media. And I'm like, so what are you the alternative to? I hate
yeah,
that. So anyway, I get it. Like you got to start somewhere, right? Like here's and sometimes they they say here's a clip from CNN, let's talk about it. Now let's criticize CNN for how they handled it. So that's okay. I get that. But anyway, so the presidential race, no, that's pretty much over, right? Those primaries are a done deal. I mean, Trump and Biden have all the uh, delegates they need, right?
yeah, they've clinched. I mean, yeah, it's just the health scare now. That's the only thing that's going to keep either one of them from running. I mean, from really being on the November ballot. Yeah.
What
So,
about how do you feel about Florida just calling it in
well, I
favor
mean,
of
that
Biden?
happened several months ago.
Yeah,
So,
well, how do you feel about that though?
oh, it's
Because
terrible. Absolutely terrible. I
our
mean, yeah. I mean, I just, I was so upset when, I mean, a few other states did that too. And it's just like, why are you doing that? I mean,
so they'll say it's standard operating procedure for an incumbent, right?
no, it's not. I mean, it's not. I mean, first of all, what happened in 1968 was that should be happening again. I mean, I know you can make the point. Well, LBJ chose not to run, and maybe if he would have run, he could have won. But the reason he didn't run was because the war was so unpopular. The Vietnam War was so unpopular, and he wasn't sure if he could win, and he felt it was degrading because I mean he didn't really have his he wasn't a declared candidate. He still won the New Hampshire primary by 9 points, but then at that point he just said, "No, I'm not gonna run again," you know. And so I mean that could happen again. But there were other people who were challenging, and then in '76, you know, Ted Kennedy challenged Carter, and that's happened several times with Republicans too. And so, yeah, I just don't believe that. I think that's terrible, and I think that there should always be, and the same thing with progressives too. You know, I mean, we're talking about all those people challenging Ilhan Omar and Cory Bush and Jamal Bowman. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with those people, you know, running the non-progressives running against somebody who is progressive. You know, I mean, that's the way it should be. It should always be a battle of ideas. And so and I just don't believe in this whole incumbency racket. I mean, you know, let's have a debate. Let's see who has the better ideas and go from there. And I hate the income where incumbents are just guaranteed a spot. You know, I mean, I hate that.
Yeah, more competitive primaries in theory do more to hold the incumbent accountable, not to
Right.
mention get their administration to produce more innovative policy instead of saying this is what we're going to do next time. They could be, doing it now. And I think that that's it, to me it feels like one of the most progressive things in politics is to um pressure Democratic leaders to support more competitive primaries. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But they don't want to do that, and it's getting worse than ever. I mean, I just I don't know. People don't want to run either because they don't feel they can win, and that's a shame too.
Yeah.
And I do understand that. Like I was looking up Ohio, uh, and like Howie Klein, he's the guy, who's always he has a blog and he's been talking about promoting progressive candidates for a long time. I mean, he was like a kind of an original blogger back when the internet first started, and when there really weren't too many progressive candidates at all. And this is pre Bernie 2016 run, and so he is promoting a guy from Ohio, and so I was looking up his district, and it was like, yeah, it's like a plus 35 Trump district. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I mean, get out there, put your issues forward. But yeah, it's hard to win. And, so many other candidates, they're getting 25 to 35%. And that's great too. Put your issues out there. Make sure that those issues are important to people. Keep them at the forefront of people's minds. And so, I mean, uh, but it would be nice if there were some people that were more competitive, and a lot of them is just like some of those districts just aren't competitive, and it's almost impossible to win in a swing district.
Do you,
It's
okay,
very
so
difficult.
one question I ask my guests a lot about electoral politics is this framing that I often see in mainstream media where they say that you have to, a Democratic candidate or a progressive candidate has to win over Republican votes
No.
if they want to win. But what if they're in one of those plus 35 for Trump districts? You kind of do, right? How else are you going to do it? Are there really that many people who aren't currently voting that you could somehow get out to vote, or do you have to win over the Republican? Why bother if you can't win over Republicans in that district?
Yeah, I mean, if it's a plus 35, if it's anything over plus 10, I think it's a really impossible task. I mean, the
Yeah.
odds of that are literally like 1 in 1,000
Wow.
to win, because there's just,
Wow.
I mean, it's just so it just doesn't happen, because I mean I've been following this for decades, and it just never happens. I mean, the 2014 races, those had some of the biggest polling eras in the Senate race. I think, like in Virginia, I believe it was Mark Warner's race. They had like a consistent 10-point era, and that's the biggest polling era I've ever seen. Uh, I mean, obviously the Clinton Trump races in the former blue wall states of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, had big polling misses, 6 or 7 points. Same thing happened in 2020. Everybody thought Biden was going to win those formerly blue wall states that I just mentioned by 6 or 7 points, and he only won Wisconsin by 0.6 and Pennsylvania by 1.1, and he did win Michigan by 2.8. So yeah, I mean, it's super difficult to do that, and so I mean, so I just feel like you should just always push what you believe in. I mean, I do understand to some degree, if it is a kind of a competitive race, and but I mean, mostly I think it's just people should just push their ideas. I mean, that's the way Bernie did. I mean, Bernie, he said, this is what I believe in. When he was talking about pollsters, he's like, I don't want to deal with pollsters. This is what I believe in. If I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose, you know? And like, what's a pollster going to tell me that I should change something that I don't believe in, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, but there are other people who are not quite as progressive as Bernie, but are still good. And, do they have a chance of winning if they are more moderate in certain areas in a swingy area? Yeah, sure. I mean, they might get some of those, that small sliver of voters that come out, uh, who who are truly independents, because most of the people who say they're independents aren't actually independents. They're lean Republicans or lean Democrats. And uh so it's just super hard to find those true voters. But I don't know, there's usually 8 to 12% that are true independents, depending on the district or the state. It's hard to know for sure. But
How did you feel about the uncommitted votes on Super Tuesday? I think overall, of course, we already knew they weren't going to be as major in numbers as Michigan had been the prior week. But do you think that were you impressed? Do you think that it had any impact? And I don't think that we have too many opportunities for that going forward. I think tomorrow it's Kansas might have some uncommitted vote on the ballot, but otherwise, I don't know. What do you think about that? Is that I don't know if it's making a difference with Biden, do you?
yeah, I think it's making a slight difference. But overall, I think it's a good move to make. I mean, like in Texas, I voted for Marianne Williamson. I think she's a good candidate. I think, I'm not sure if we talked about this on the air last time, but yeah, I do think that I think that people don't they try to put too much into, like, it has to be the perfect candidate.
Yeah.
I mean, what I like about
Who's
Marianne
that?
Williamson, is that, she may not have the greatest, personality or something of that sort. I mean, I like her personality personally, but I mean, I can see why people would say, she hasn't really achieved anything in politics, and she's an outsider, and she has no chance of winning, and like, why should I support her? But I mean, I guess my answer to that would be because she supports the issues that I believe in. And so, you don't have she doesn't have to be like the perfect candidate, and she has no chance of winning. And so why not have a protest vote who was for somebody who actually, is a real person, to where uncommitted isn't a real person. It's just a protest vote. And so I kind of think, like, I think a lot of people put so much energy into it, I mean, I do understand it, and I think it has helped people, but I think it's a uh, I think it's a little bit misguided. I would like to see, I would like to see Marianne Williamson get, 15% of the vote, or 10% of the vote, or 20% of the vote. I mean, on a personal level, that's what I would like to see. But I do understand why people vote uncommitted, and I do think it's a good thing that they're doing that, as opposed to voting for Biden. Uh, so, yeah,
Professor Harvey K said the exact same thing. He wishes people had voted for Marianne Williamson. Now he's an advisor to her campaign, so I guess there's that. But it makes sense because while I'm all in favor of people can vote however they want, I'll always advise people what I would do, and they can listen to that or not. And I can have folks like yourself on the show, and people will be that much more informed for sure. But I like the idea of a protest vote in cases like this, where it's like, what else can you do to get the president to listen to reason? And people are like, well, we can definitely change his mind. And I'm like, yeah, but that's after 30,000 lives have been lost. I don't understand. Like I'd rather have somebody else in there than not just say,
yeah,
oh, let's make it like, let's let him know he'll lose to the Republican. Let's get a better Democrat in there. That's why it's a primary. So anyway, I get the protest vote. I like it. I know that people feel backed into a corner for sure. But yeah, I was going to have an interview with Marianne Williamson tonight. She had to reschedule. My sense is when you're on the campaign, it's just rescheduling. You're not scheduling, you're just constantly rescheduling because there's a lot of rescheduling going on. I'm working with like 4 different candidates, and one of them is rock solid scheduled, and the rest are all rescheduling, which just seems like the nature of it. Speaking of which, so Jen Perlman's coming on tonight. Um, you like her? She ran in 2020 of all years.
yeah.
That's a tough one. Got 30% of the vote against a candidate who is like high profile and highly problematic. Like people do not like Debbie Wasserman Schultz. She had to step down from the DNC after rigging the vote for Hillary Clinton against Bernie Sanders in 2016.
Right.
And she's still going strong. Of course, she has a lot of pro Israel and APAC money coming in. Lots. Um, Something like 90,000 this year alone already just from APAC. But I wonder, what was it that, and I mean, for Jen Perlman to get 30% of the vote in 2020 seems like a big deal, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of progressive candidates get that amount, but yeah, I mean, it's good. I mean, yeah, sure. I think I think I remember Sam interviewing her first. I think on Ring of Fire. I think in might have been in 2019, maybe, or 2020. That's when I first heard of her, and yeah, I think she's a good candidate. I like her issues set. I think I basically mostly agree with everything that, or most of what she says. So yeah, I think it's really positive to get more people running, get those ideas out there, and just make slow progress. I mean, I wish it would all happen all at once. Where we would have this great configuration of, of progressives who would have this massive win, in 20, 20, 30 seats, but it just seems to go in trickles, 4 or 5 seats here, 4 or 5 seats there. uh, like I said, it's mostly in urban centers is where they win the most progressive seats, but so.
So why do you think it is that Debbie Wasserman Schultz, I mean, there's obvious reasons perhaps, but why do you think it is that she's unbeatable? Or up till now, anyway. I mean,
Um,
she's not popular. Her own party doesn't necessarily. I mean, she has a history of irritating her own party. Like I don't like in 2011 she got pushback from her party for wanting to hire a donor's like daughter um for like a pretty good position. I forget it was like something like Jewish to voter relations or something like that. And she got a lot of pushback from the Democrats on that. And then she called a meeting with Obama just for that. And after the meeting, Obama reportedly said to his staff, "Really? You're gonna get a meeting with me, and that's what you want to talk about?" And then she went and hired that person anyway. And
Yeah,
and
I
so I mean
agree.
that it's just like then 2016 happened, and I guess people are like, well, she's willing to take one for the team, maybe. I don't know. What do you think it is?
Yeah, no, yeah, I agree. She is very problematic. I mean, I, yeah, I mean, it's just the whole centrist democratic ideology is just it's frustrating, you know. I mean, because there are some issues that I do agree with her on, you know. I mean, mostly women's rights, you know, abortion issues. Uh, not too many, not too many
Yeah,
other things, though. I mean,
yeah.
because I mean, almost all Democrats, you know, support abortion issues, and that's really good. But on just about everything else, yeah, I disagree with her. Yeah, she's just not so great. I don't really know that district that well. I know that she only won by like 11 points. So I mean, it's not like a. I mean, that's still a good margin, but it's not like a 20 or 30 point win. So yeah,
Hey,
it's
here's a super chat. Let's get this up there. This is specifically for you. Jake has $5. Fellow San Antonian here. What city council or mayoral candidates should I look out for? Also, propositions.
okay. Well, I mean uh let's see. Trying to remember now. Uh Terry Castillo is really good. She represents the West Side. I was trying to remember what district she represents. We've had a few Twitter exchanges. Just really DSA endorsed. Excellent. You know, really think that she's phenomenal. She serves her community so well. Another person is I think his name is Jalen McKee. I think it's Rodriguez is the last name. I could be wrong about that. And he's also very good. His Twitter handle is called the Loser Teacher. He used to be a teacher, and just again, you know, DSA endorsed. You know, just super strong on economic issues. Just real. You know, these are champions for working class people, and this is like these are some people that I think 10 or 20 years from now they should they're going to really have a bright future if the country continues to move the way it is demographically. You look at issue sets, you look at voting, who younger people are voting for, and I have a lot of hope that it's going to get much better, as younger people become more mature, and hopefully they'll stay progressive. Uh, as far as mayoral candidates, they next year I think is the mayoral election. From what I've heard, Ron Nierenberg is very much a centrist mayor who's had his run. I think he's not going to run again, or maybe he doesn't. He's I think there's a term limited to some degree. I'm not
Hmm.
absolutely sure about that. And so there's a lot of talk about who may be running for mayor next. From my understanding, he's not going to run again. And so, or maybe he's term limited. And so that'll be interesting to see, you know, I mean, maybe Terry Castillo will run for mayor. I mean, that would be great. I mean, she's just so phenomenal. So.
How about propositions? Anything on the ballot worth?
No, because like I said, the elections are next year, and
Oh,
so they're in off year elections. Uh, so so there was a good proposition that was trying to promote. I'm trying to remember exactly, but it was essentially about, I think it was the use of force by the police, and that didn't do so well. I think it only got about 35% of the vote. And so, but I mean, they had some good people supporting it, and I certainly supported it. And, but yeah, I mean, a lot of older voters just don't get it. I mean, a lot of them are great. Don't get me wrong. It's not all of them. It's just that as a percentage, older voters just have a tendency to be more conservative, more moderate, and the younger voters, they really, I have great admiration for them. I mean, I think they're extremely wise, and you look at MR, and I think their audience is mostly younger people. I mean, I think Sam had a lot of older people, let's say 10 years ago, and I know he still has a certain percentage, but I mean, a lot of it is just are younger people, and I think that's great. I mean, I think I just have so much hope for them, and hope for the future. I mean,
yeah. It's a really switched on audience. I like it a lot.
definitely, definitely.
Well, John, thanks so much for coming on. I really do appreciate it. I can't wait to have you back on again, and keep that maybe not feud going with Sam and company over at the Majority Report. I'm not 100% sold that it isn't some sort of a feud. It would be good for my numbers if it was, I think, but whatever. Um, like I said, everyone should give John a follow, and definitely, I mean, you're only going to benefit. If you're interested or want to be interested or more in the know about elections and polling and the numbers, you're only going to benefit from paying attention to what John's got to say. That's why we keep having him on. Is there anything you want to say before we wrap?
No, I guess the main thing is just about if you do live in the Illinois district that I talked about, seventh district, 11th district, fourth district, sixth district. You've got progressive candidates running in all of those districts, and I just think you should support those candidates who are Kina Collins, Rashid, Kasim Rashid. Those are the Tina Collins is seventh, Rashid. Kasim Rashid and the Rashid in the 11th district, Chuy Garcia in the 4th district, and who's and what's the other one is Maynor Abad in the 6th district. And so those are, I mean, like to see a good showing from them, and hopefully it'll kind of buck the trend of progressives not doing so great. And also, I did mention the woman who won in Adam Schiff's district, or had the most votes. She will win. She will be the congresswoman in the California third district, Laura
Right.
Friedman. And so I was happy when I read about her, and I was like, oh, good issue sets. I mean, maybe not as radical as some of the people I like, but I mean, still good. Kind of like a Becca Balint in Vermont. Just the real solid Democrat. Yeah.
That's great. And if anyone knows of any other candidates, you heard the guy, DM him. Let him know. He will look
Yeah.
into it. He will promote them. He will track them. John, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
All right. Sounds good. Thank
All
you very
right.
much.
Take
Appreciate
care.
it. Okay. All right.